Over the light. Good morning. It's 5 a.m. Mester Scrum. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope everything's good. We got a new bright light over that way. I just bought. No shadows on that side anymore. Now I need a light on this side. So we'll see how that works. Anyway, yeah, today is Amazon Box Day. So this is show 73 with Greg Mester. Talk about this is 5 a.m. Mester Scrum. And we're going to talk about Agile and Scrum and things that happen around the house or whatever. Looks like I'm getting a huge reflection. Guess that's on the thing back here. Yeah, it's coming off the glass. So this is step one. I got new lights so I can move the office so I'm not in the area here where everybody comes in and I get yelled at by the wife. But get your stuff out. It is what it is. So we do have a new light. So sorry if there's a big glaring thing in the background. This is live. And we are here to talk about Agile and Scrum, not so much about the layout of the show and all that kind of stuff, but it's growing as we go and maturing. And I'm going to do a little whiteboard today. Ooh, make sure I don't get that like blinded out. So the light whiteboard. I have to remember that. So whiteboard, I got to do it sideways like that. There we go. That'll work. And talk about different things. And two things I want to talk about today. Some things I heard, again, doing interviews, and I heard one person talk about something. And about being invited to coach. And the question was, and I think we talked about this before, and I will make an index of all the shows so I just remember what I do so I don't kind of duplicate stuff. And the question was, you're at an event or a meeting or something, and somebody in the room goes, enough, right, to you as a coach, so you're talking. And I was thinking to myself, one, that would be a terrible place to be, and a lot of transformation people don't want to hear it. But then sometimes I think if the coaches and the Scrum Masters and people that aren't, they bring that onto themselves. And I know I got to put my working agreement up. I'm redoing the website, still working on it, a lot of things. But in my working agreement, I put in there that and it's a coaching thing, when you take the coaching classes and they tell you this, and then you really learn why it's important, you have to be invited. You have to ask permission to coach. I can see where in a meeting where an Agile coach will get yelled at for saying, someone will say, enough, right? Because the Agile coach comes in and dominates the conversation. Maybe you're in the middle of a meeting or something and they says, oh, I'm going to tell you all about Agile now. I'm going to turn you how to do Scrum. I'm going to take over this meeting and tell you everything you need to know. Like that never happens, right? There's a lot of egos out there. And you have to be mindful of that as yourself as a coach, because I don't doubt that I haven't done that before. But what I've learned is if I'm going to do that, I ask them if it's okay to coach in the event. Like if I'm there and they invite me or something I want to say, is it okay if I add something, right? I ask permission first. By asking permission first should minimize that issue of enough training, enough, how do you do things? But what I see is these coaches will pop in and start, well, let me show you how this is done. And I'll put it on the whiteboard and I'll draw it up and everything. And that's mistake number one. Don't do that, right? However, you should be able to, ask permission. You don't just let it go a lot of times when they're really wrong. And you ask, is it okay if I add something, right? But you just don't add something, but you ask them if it's okay. And you keep it short and brief and just say, I want a stated point. Don't explain a big bunch of stories. But I heard that yesterday and it just made me think about it. I was like, one, is your Agile coach really trained? Probably not. They just became Agile coach because they think they're an Agile coach. I was a Scrum Master for a couple teams. And then they say, oh, I should be an Agile coach, or I know Jira, or I know Rally, or I know the system, or I know coding, and I know the technical aspects, so I should be an Agile coach. there's stuff to that, and I agree. Experience does it. But I will also add, and I'm not plugging my training thing, though. However, I learned a lot taking these classes that I'm bringing back to Philadelphia. So there's a reason why I'm doing it. It's not because I just want to do things. It's like no, it was really valuable, and for me as a Scrum Master, mature taking some of these IC Agile courses was really beneficial, and I really do encourage people to take them. It's not full-blown coaching, because full-blown coaching, by the way, is 6 months, $60,000, 9 months maybe. I don't want to do that. That's too much. There's coaches out there that take 9 months to train to become a coach. And it's really intensive, and it's not easy if you really look at the instructions. So, but it gives you some ideas, like the idea of asking permission to coach. And I think that if those coaches in those events would have asked permission to coach, they wouldn't have got that reaction of enough, right? So I just wanted to share that with you. It is very important to do that. For anybody who's a Scrum Master, Agile coach, or any kind of mentor, you should always ask permission if you want to give guidance, some insight, and make sure they're ready for it, right? And I will. Maybe I really need to do the working agreement. Hopefully, I'll do that come Monday. We'll do a whole series next week on the working agreement and how to do that, because that'll give me this weekend to finish the website and put some content on. And so anyway, so always ask permission, or you will get one of those people to say enough in the meeting. Be mindful where you are and how much time you take up during that meeting. It's just one of those recommendations I heard the other day, and I just think it's because they're not trained Agile, they're not trained coaches. They don't know to ask permission. You'd be amazed how many people, what? You got to ask permission. I get it from coaches. I'm like, you don't know anything about coaching. You got the title name only. Anyway, so that's important. That'll help you as a coach when you go in. And I guess I should talk about, I want to add one more little point. Prep before the meeting. Don't coach in the meeting. Coach before the meeting, not really during the meeting at all. You shut up, don't say a thing. And then after the meeting. The only time you would say anything in the meeting is if you were invited, or you see something drastically wrong and you just ask, is it okay if I clarify? Or is it okay if I add something to it or give you a little insight into that? And it's a little insight during the meeting, not a big insight. It's just a little insight. And I'm showing my fingers really little. So that's Agile coaching. Next thing I want to talk about is team size. And we talked about, kind of hinted on it, and teams growing, right? And I have a blog post out from like 2 years ago that I did from 2017. And I got the whiteboard up, getting it. I'm getting ready to draw on the whiteboard for everybody on the podcast. And this is 5am Mester Scrum. Please like and subscribe. Share with your friends. Give the little thumbs up, right? And I got to get a bell. I'm looking for a Liberty Bell. But I haven't found one yet. So I know there's one in this house. There's bells everywhere. Kids have them. I just got to find it. And anyway, so I want to talk about team size. A lot of times in the waterfall or just mentality, and sometimes it's political, I'm just going to hire more people to do more work. So if I hire more people, I'll get more work done. And I think we talked about that. Like if I have, let's just say I have 4 people, right? 4 people. And I add 2 more people. And I'm like, oh, cool. I'm going to have 6 people. Let's say I was doing 100%. So I figure if I add another 2 people to it, I'll get another 50%. And that'll equal 150% like product output, right? Simple math. And how many managers do this? We'll just hire 2 more people. I'll get a 50% more throughput capability. Yeah, no, not really. It doesn't happen that way. But however, when you're ramping up to say, oh, instantaneous, I actually overheard a conversation the other day about that. And it's like, oh, I should get return. Well, no, these 2 people have to be trained, and then 2 people from this group have to be trained. So now you only get, so instead of at 4, so each person, let's say, is 25 points per person, right? So now you only get, now you're getting 50 points full rope. And then these other 250 are really half time. And these are nowhere near the 50 points per product. They're probably maybe 5 points. So you get 50, 75, 80. So now you're like 80 points. So now your team went from 100 points, right? From 100 points down to 80 points for the first month. So you got a 20% reduction in your performance. So you hire the people, you think you're going to get more work out, and in fact, you just went down in productivity, right? So why not, instead of hiring them 2 more people, just do Scrum and Agile and get better and put more throughput through, right? So you hired 2 people. We were at 100, and if 2 people aren't helping, but these other 2 people, so they're like half time because they're spending the other half of their time bringing the other people up to speed, reviewing their work, getting them familiar, coaching them, doing pair programming, whatever they got to do. And now you're down to like 80%. So you actually lost throughput. And it will take, and maybe the next sprint, these people back up to, maybe they're back up to 40. These guys are 50. And these guys are maybe 20. So maybe this is like hopefully 2 sprints, but I've heard things where like 6, I've heard months to get people up to speed. So that's, if you do months, like 3 months, that's like 6 sprints. So let's say this is 3 sprints and this is 3 sprints, right? So it's 50, 80, 90. So now you're at 110. Okay. So now it's 6 months into it. They're at 20. They're at almost halfway productivity because these guys have been around for a year or so, right? So these are up there. Later on, these will get up to like 45, and maybe 6 months later, these people are more like at 40, right? So now we got 95, 35. So now you're at 135, and this is like another 6 months, right? So you're still not at that 150 mark that you thought you're going to get by hiring those people. So you spend, and by the way, you are paying full rate for these people. You're paying the 150 rate. So from a dollar standpoint, you're still paying 150. You're still paying 150. You're still paying 150. So for 6 months, you increased your cost by 50%. You're not getting the 50%. You're lost. You're lost. You're gaining, right? But it's still not full 50%. So for 6 months, you bought a person that didn't add anything. So you basically, it's the same as hiring somebody. I'll put it this way: if you're at a store and you're selling pretzels, I can tell you a pretzel story. You're paying for that person. They're just standing there watching everything and not really doing anything for 6 months. So during that time, you basically paid for someone to stand there to watch you work. So does that make sense? No. Does it make more sense to improve the throughput of the people you have in place? Yes. Because it doesn't cost you any more money. It's free, right? And everything you do just makes the code product better. So like if you were to do unit tests or you were to do automation, maybe you didn't get as much work through, but now the automation's working and it just steamrolls into growing return on investment. Plus it's good coding practice. You get product, they know the product, they're getting better at it, getting better code, less bugs, right? So the other thing I just want to mention, and we're almost at the 14-minute mark. Or maybe that was enough. Maybe tomorrow, what I'm going to go over is channels. And I'm just going to do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I drew a circle, and then with eight little marks on it, and each mark is a person. Think of your communications when your teams get done. This is an 8-person team, right? And we're going to go into this more. But if I have to communicate with everybody on the channel in the team, these are all my lines of communication, right? And if I do here, and then I do here, right? Here. Is I missing anybody? That one's there. That one's there. I don't know. I think I got them all. So you get that, right? See how many lines and everything? Oh, there's one over here somewhere. This guy goes here, right? That guy goes there. This guy goes there. That's connected. That's connected. That's connected. So you get lots of connections, right? And the more people, if I put another two people on my 8-person team, now that person goes there. Look how quickly look how much communication now chatter gets on your team, right? And that's just that one. Now if I put 2 people on, right? Gotta add that guy gotta go there. I already made him connected. There. So it gets even worse. That's just adding 2 people. So you saw the difference between, and sorry everybody, connecting lines to everybody on the circle. It gets cluttered. So I just want to give you, there's a math formula. There's n, which is number of people, times n minus 1. So you put in brackets n minus 1. So it's n star n minus 1. And then you take that whole set, take that whole number and divide by 2. So it's n. So it's n star n minus 1 in brackets, all divided by 2, tells you how many communication channels. So an 8-person team. So an 8-person team has 28 channels. Okay, and that's kind of manageable. A 14-person team has 91 channels. So what the difference between 28 channels and 91 channels? And everybody likes to tell everybody you should know everything. How are you going to know everything? How are you going to know what everybody's working on? So that's just another thing. I'm going to talk more about that and how that works in the brain because, like I said, I got an article from 2017 on that. Just expanding the team not only costs you money in the short run, you don't get the return on investment. Long run, maybe, but still you're going to. But then the problem is your team gets too big. I mean, it's one thing if it's 4 people and you had 2. If it's 8 people and you just double that, right? You add another 4 people, that'll be 12. So that's pretty close to the number we just said. So if you had 8 people and you went to 12, I mean, I don't know what the number, probably like 60 some odd people. But you're going from 28 channels of communication to like almost 91 or 80. So you're tripling or doubling the lines of communication. So you're cluttering the communication, what everybody's doing. People can't tell what they're doing. They're falling over each other. And I hope that circle with the lines in it kind of gives you an idea. But we'll do an episode just talking about that. But I wanted to give that to you also since we talked about that. Anyway, happy Scrumming, 5 a.m. Mester Scrum. Please like and subscribe. And if you want, give us a thumbs up. That's cool. Share. We're on LinkedIn, social medias, Facebook. Just promote it. Let everybody know. We're doing this just for the fun and getting out and learning and using the bright sunlight. I'm actually thinking about doing some interviews with people. So I had an event coming up at the local Agile Philly where I do that networking thing where we talk about meeting people and stuff like that and what fun thing, what's your next fun thing and just help with the networking. And I know I got to do the office because I got that big bright light over there reflecting on there. You never know until you do it, right? So with that, it's almost 6 o'clock. We're being within. It says 5:59, and I will say goodbye and have a happy day and happy scrumming. Take care, everybody. Enjoy your day. Thumbs up.